welcome to the studio. I am here with Alison Kay, VP and Managing Director at AWS UK and Ireland. Alison, really pleased to have you here.
I am so delighted to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for making the time. So you've just been on stage. Give us the gist about what you were talking about.
My focus at the moment is on how do we really go deeper with AI adoption. So AI adoption is now at a space where I think it's around 68% of organizations here in the UK have adopted AI, which is great.
68?
68%.
It's much higher than I was expecting.
And it's higher than Europe. So the good news is the UK is outperforming Europe or leading in Europe. Europe's around 54%, which is maybe more where you would have thought it was. But here in the UK, we're doing really well. But the adoption is I would describe it as the basic.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, so you're into, things like employee productivity, basic automation, bit of experimentation, proof of concepts. So at the moment, that's where the majority of organizations are sort of on their AI journey. So good news, willingness to adopt. I think it's something like one business every 40 seconds, in that adoption. But if we're truly to see the productivity gains for the UK economy, then adoption has to go a lot deeper.
Yeah. I've got this stat that only 1 in 4 businesses are using what we call advanced AI. What is advanced AI?
So advanced AI is combining multiple models. It's using agentic AI. So it's using AI to do some quite whole-scale transformation of entire business functions, business processes, using, multi-models and the agentic AI. And agentic AI is here. It's not waiting. It's here. It's acting. It's planning. It's reasoning. But the need to do that shift and do that transformation is where the value gap at the moment is between the basic adoption and the more advanced AI adoption. Why? In the UK, we believe there's around £35 billion worth of productivity gain to be had if we shift.
It's huge.
It's huge. It's huge for the country. And you think about the desire to unlock growth, to unlock, that sort of GDP, and to just make, the citizens of the UK feel, better about life.
I mean, our GDP per capita has been stagnant for the last 20 years, so we need to unlock that.
And we believe that the fastest way to unlocking that is to really drive adoption of the advanced AI.
So what are the barriers, to unlock that 35 billion?
Well, the biggest barrier that's cited by British businesses is skills. So around 55% say that they do not have the skills in their organisation to really unlock the potential and the possibilities of AI. And we know that skills are going to underpin how adoption happens across the UK. So we're in talking to businesses. My encouragement is, look, you've got to put people at the heart of your transformation, because we know that without those skills, the unlock of the productivity gains are just not going to happen. So, skills are critical. And, we are AWS. We're, partnering that. We're committed, absolutely committed. We have the Jobs to Tech Skills Alliance, bit of a mouthful, Jobs to Tech Skills Alliance. And we're committed to training and giving access to skills to 100,000 people by 2030, because we believe it's one of the biggest, opportunities to really drive adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. Does that skills gap worry you, though? Because if you look at the education system, you also wonder, what are they educating this next generation who are going to enter the workforce into? Are they equipping them with the skills? And we've got that cohort, and we've got people who are already in jobs at all different levels who need to be skilled up. And it does feel, even by 2030, which isn't actually that far away now, we're going to have a huge gap, because AI is moving so quickly.
AI is moving really quickly, and we do... there is a need to sort of accelerate the skill training across the country in all the different cohorts you've just mentioned. And I am seeing higher education now really lean into it. I was talking to King's College last week, and, they put a huge amount into how they are asking students to work with AI and not ignoring AI. I think the biggest thing we can't do is just say AI doesn't exist. We've got to really go, look, we've got to lean into it. So higher education is getting there. And I've got a 12-year-old and an 18-year-old, and I'm actually not worried about my 12-year-old because he is already, as a digital native kid, he's accessing AI and using AI.
What kind of jobs do you think your 18-year-old is going to go into? Do you think by the time he or she enters the job market, it will be broadly the same as it is now?
Well, I think AI gets infused into all jobs. So she's going to study biomedical science. I've already been encouraging her to go on training courses for AI because AI and biomedical science research is just a completely intertwined, infused way. And, I was listening to Lisa Sue on the stage, and she was talking about how exciting it is for science.
Yeah.
That AI is going to really be able to accelerate our understanding of the world and health. And so I think the opportunities that jobs will get created that we just cannot see at the moment. And, if you look back at when the internet was formed, who would have thought that influencers would be a really seriously genuine job that, organizations are employing to help them to do their marketing? That just didn't exist. Even 10 years ago, really, it wasn't, so I just think that new jobs that we can't even see at the moment.
You mentioned agentics earlier on, and it feels like 2026 might be a bit more of an inflection point when it comes to agentic. What concerns you about the more widespread use of agentic?
First of all, we have an agentic tool for developers called Kiro. And when you see it in action, you can see the power of it. So, at AWS, we had to rebuild our Amazon Bedrock platform from scratch. It wasn't architected in the right way. And, it would have taken without agentic, around 40 engineers, 12 months, loads of coffee, you can imagine. And, the team did it with 6 engineers in 76 days. They completely re-architected the platform because they were using agentic AI. And so the agents were sort of building, developing, fixing bugs right around the clock. So it will speed up, our ability to do work. Sure. Now, the important question for leaders is there's 5 questions for leaders that I'm posing. One is ethics. How do you make sure that you build responsible AI frameworks in and ensure that trust will drive adoption? So therefore, that sort of ethical mindset as you're building your AI needs to be in play. One of the other points I'm sort of making is around security and governance. And, companies now have to be focusing on not just, the output of AI, but actually what the agents are doing within their organization. So there's all sorts of tools and technologies now being built about observability and so on. But organizations have to have that as the heart of their build out of agentic AI. So with responsible AI, with ethics, with good governance built into the frameworks that organizations are using, I think it's going to be fine.
A few weeks ago, I came across some research talking about agentic in the context of using agents to make purchases. And I think the discomfort level for that specific use case was really high. It was something like 60% of people feel very uncomfortable about that. When do you think we're going to get to a point where we'll have much wider adoption and acceptance and use of agentic? Because we're still very much in the early stages.
We're still very much in the early stages of it. And like every technology breakthrough, there'll be the people who are very comfortable with it and the people who will never be comfortable with it. And then you'll have the 60 to 70% in the middle who will just gradually get more and more comfortable as they are seeing those who are using it work. But I think the difference with agentic and with AI is the speed at which we're seeing it move. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do think people will become comfortable with using it. But it will be that sort of, adoption will be happen by the leaders and you'll have others then follow it.
I mean, you mentioned the start of the internet. It took a lot of years for the internet to A, become transactional, and B, for people to feel okay about even putting credit card details online. I suppose there's going to be a similar kind of process with agentic, although sped up, because we're all quite impatient for AI to kick in.
We are impatient.
Do you feel like we're a bit too impatient? Yeah, if you think about Because we're both at the age where we would remember when the internet started and then how long it took. It took a decent amount of time. But with AI, we do want everything much faster.
Well, I think that's the world we live in. And I think that's the world that, a younger generation, the Gen Z generation and the Gen Alpha generation, which are now coming through into their teenage years, are so much more comfortable with as digital natives.
Yeah.
Even the gap between my daughter who's 18 and my 12-year-old, his ability and access to tech and the way he uses tech is quite different to her.
Immediately after your keynote, there was a session on the emerging case for sovereign AI development in Europe. Is that something that you worry about at AWS in terms of how we're positioning ourselves in the UK when it comes to sovereign AI?
Europe's made the case for sovereign cloud, and we have lent into that, and we are supporting, and we have our sovereign cloud that is supporting businesses in Europe. And my view is that a cloud adoption really does drive the ability to use AI. Why? Because it unlocks the data that is existing in on-prem legacy applications. And what I'm observing is that the shift to cloud is accelerating because it's really helping to unlock the data, which then unlocks the potential of the AI. So I think it is the cloud environment that gives the biggest advantage.
And just a final thought. They mentioned a stat this morning. They talked about the UK tech sector being worth $1.6 trillion, and AI makes about a third of that. What would be your one ask from the UK government to ensure we have the momentum that we really need to roll out advanced AI more widely across the country?
The government is doing some really good things, and they are really behind AI and around the use of AI. I think demonstrating how government and government departments is using AI is demonstrated in our research that will drive trust across a wider range of the UK. So I think accelerating the use of AI in public services will be the one biggest lever that the government can pull to drive trust in the adoption of AI across all UK citizens. And I think it will then explode. So I think that will be my ask of the government, which is great. It really is great that they're putting in the frameworks and the policies and the support around AI. But I think it will really, really accelerate when governments are demonstrating the use of it in public services.
All right, Alison Kay, really lovely to talk to you.
Lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much. It's been great. Thank you.